Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, we should first offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. And let's see if I can do the middle one. I did not bring my little book, my cheap book. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna
Shrinkata Svakata Krishna
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridiyantasto Yabhadrani
Hridiyantasto Bhadrani. Supritsitam.
Huh? Something Supritsitam. Sorry. Don't have my cheap book. And let's see. You know the English of that? The super soul is in the heart, and we have to have. I can't recite verses in front of everybody. I can't anywhere, I guess.
All right, we'll turn our backs to you.
By regular, is that Sri Krishna, the person?
Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Yeah. I can't do it. I can never do it. It just does not come to the front of my brain. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtapraeshu Bhadraeshu
Nashtapraeshu Bhadraeshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Utamashloke
Bhagavati Utamashloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular
attendance. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
You know, just a side note, so you don't feel alone. There's a mantra called the Narayana Pravacha Shield. And I've been checking since the late 70s. It's probably about 20-something verses, and I know it, okay? But unless it's in my lap, the book is sitting in my lap, can I just then do it? If you ask me to do it here now, I can maybe do 1 or 2 verses, and I'm like...
Isn't that funny? I mean, if somebody gave you a word or two, you could just, if you didn't have any interruption, maybe you could just roll it off.
Yeah, well, one time I really had to do it, and I didn't have the book, so Krishna gave it to me. But generally speaking, if it's sitting in my lap, it just, the touch of the book, it's like that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you're not unusual. Maybe I am, but...
You know, there are things that we did daily in the temple when I was new devotee and everything. That kind of stuck.
Yeah.
To try to learn a verse on my own, this middle verse that I decided is a little bit added, you know, wasn't part of the early training, so... You know,
that's, you know, for a lot of us, you start, and that's where it should be, but then they say this and that, and it's just never...
And if, you know, just think of all the stuff we memorized as kids growing up, nonsense, that if we had to learn these verses, wow.
You're right. It's true.
So anyway, okay, the verse today is, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, Parashik first by Brahmana boy, and the text is 17, which I did manage to write up there, so, Tan, Na, Param, Punyam, Asamvritartam, Tanna Param Punyam Asamvritartam, Ajnanam, Atyadbhuta, Yoga, Nishtam, that's a long name. Akyanam atyadbhuta yoga nishtam. Akyahi. This is 3 words, right? Ananta. And probably Acharita. How's it break up? Acharita
Acharita
Papanam
Pranam
Ananta Charito Papanam Charito Ananta Charito.
Okay.
Does it look like an A?
No, it looks like a no. I thought I heard an A.
I might have said A. No. Can't remember anymore.
I can't hear.
Spell that. Is it ANANTHECARITO?
Yeah,
Correct? Okay.
yeah. It's made of two words. Ananta and Acharito.
It's one word here, so.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, in the word for word, it's made out of two words. You can see in the word for word. Akyahi Ananta Charito Papanam
Akyahi Antaracharito Papanam
Parikshitam Bhagavata
Abhiramam
Parikshitam Bhagavata Abhiramam Tanna param punyam asamvritartam
Tanna param punyam asamvritatam
Akyanam atyadbhuta yoganishtam
Akyanam atyadbhuta yoganishtam
Akyahyananta charitopapanam
Akyahi ananta charitopapanam
Parikshitam Bhagavata Viramam
Parikshitam bhagavata viramam
Tanna param punyam asamvritartam
Tanya param punyam asamvritatam
Akyanam atyadbhuta yoganishtam
Akyanam atyadbhuta yoganishtam
Akyahyananta charitopapanam
Akyahi ananta charitopapanam
Parikshitam Bhagavata Viramam
Parikshitam bhagavata viramam
Anyone want to try?
Tanna param punyam asamvritartham Akhyayanam atyadbhuta yoganishtam Akhyahi ananta charita papanam Parikshitam bhagavatabhiramam
Parikshitam Bhagavata Tanaparam Panyam Ashavritam
Tanaparam punya asamvritatam
Akyanam Ayat Bhuta Yoganishtam
Akyanam atyadbhuta yoganishtam
Akya Hei Ananta Charito Papanam
Akyahi ananta charito papanam
Parikshatam Bhagavatam Abhiranam
Parikshitam bhagavataviramam
Tanam punyam asamvritatam
Tanaparam
Namajadbhuta yoganistam
Jnanam atyadbhuta
Yoganishtam
Akyayananta charito papanam
Asyahi Ananta Charito
Parikshitam bhagavata viramam
Parikshitam Bhagavata
viramam
Tanaparam punya asamvritatam
Tanaparam
asamvritatam
Akyatam atyadbhuta yoganistam
Akyanam atyadbhuta yoganishtam
Akyahi ananta charito papanam
Akyahi
ananta charito papanam
Parishitam bhagavata abhiramam
Parikshitam bhagavataviramam
Didn't accept the man in the corner who doesn't exist.
He does.
So we're meaning tat,
Tat.
therefore, na,
Na.
unto us, param,
Param.
supreme, punyam,
Punyam.
purifying, asamvrita artam,
Asamvritatam.
as it is, akhyanam, narration, ati, very, adibhuta, wonderful, yoga nishtam, compact in bhakti yoga, akyahi, describe, ananta, the unlimited, acharita, activities, upapanam, full of, parikshitam, spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, Bhagavata, of the pure devotees, Abhiramam, particularly very dear. Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I'll read the translation first, then you can repeat parts. Thus, please narrate to us the narrations of the unlimited, for they are purifying and supreme. They were spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and they are very dear to the pure devotees, being full of bhakti yoga. Please repeat. Thus, please narrate to us
the
narrations of the unlimited,
unlimited.
for they are purifying and supreme. They were spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and they are very dear to the pure devotees, being full of bhakti yoga. Okay, purport's real short. One little paragraph. What was spoken to Maharaj Parikshit and what is very dear to the pure devotees is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is mainly full of the narrations of the activities of the Supreme Unlimited, and therefore it is the science of Bhakti Yoga, or the devotional service of the Lord. Thus it is para, or supreme, because although it is enriched with all knowledge and religion, it is especially enriched with the devotional service of the Lord. Om
Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. And my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Are you cold?
Go up and down. So, that's all right. Let's see. So this is a really general purport. It's like this verse. You could talk for years on this one verse in a way, because it's about the Bhagavatam in general. So you could just talk all you want forever about the Bhagavatam on this verse, so anyway, I picked out a theme because I couldn't do that, and so I figured the theme is the difference between the knowledge. Enriched with knowledge and religion, and it's especially enriched with devotional service. So I thought that I would discuss those two, that they're both there, and it's so broad. So many thoughts, but they're really too broad. How do I start? We have both kinds of knowledge given to us, and in this day and age in the West, we need both desperately. So it says knowledge and religion. So transcendental knowledge. There's transcendental knowledge, and there's knowledge of how to live a good life, proper life, in light of transcendence. In other words, things like varnashram and morality. Codes of behavior, moral codes, and things like that. The Bhagavatam is full of this kind of thing. How to behave, how great devotees behave in different situations, how they have to evaluate duty and morality and loyalty and and common sense, intelligence, all these things get figured into these dramas that turn up in the Bhagavatam. So we can learn from them, because we're quite handicapped in the modern age, society having lost a lot of this. Because there's religions all over the world that have parts of this. And so everybody has some part given, and even if they don't accept any religion, the moral code is there in society. Parts of the moral code are there in society. All societies have parts, at least, in this day and age. But the overall world Vedic culture has been broken, and been broken for thousands of years, and as the pieces have grown up as if separate, as if they're different from one another, and have become kind of different, and they don't understand one another. But anyway, the knowledge and religion is there, because here we are in the material world, but there is God, and there is morality, and there is karma, and there is happiness, things like that, that we have to work for happiness and compassion to others and so on, that we have to be aware of and trained up in, and we have to have some guidelines. So we have so much knowledge. Like even in the first canto, it's an introduction to the whole Bhagavad Gita. And what are some of the things we learn in the first canto? Well, Krishna is established. Srila Vyasadeva is established. Sukadeva Goswami is established. Then we have, let me just look at.
You said Bhagavad Gita, do you mean Bhagavatam?
Did I say I meant Bhagavatam? Yes, thanks. Okay, chapter 1 is questions by the sages. So the sages, so it's sort of introducing the fact that it's Kali Yuga, introducing the fact that there's some need for questions to be answered. And these things are like, for a person reading it the first time, these things, all these points are introduced. The first 3 verses introduce the Krishna and Vyasadeva and Sukadeva Goswami, right? I think. Let's see. Yes. So the 3rd verse, O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. So quite a bit of stuff is introduced right in that verse. First of all, the existence of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the fact that it's the mature fruit, the whole desire tree, it's the mature fruit of Vedic literatures, and it emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. So now here's Sri Sukadeva Goswami being introduced, and so that we get some clue about the quality of Sri Sukadeva Goswami in the next verse. Therefore, because it comes from Sukadeva Goswami, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Must be a great devotee. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls, which Sri Sukadeva Goswami was one. He was a liberated soul who was nevertheless attracted to this. So it's above liberation. So we have these things immediately introduced. Let me go to the second. The first is all about Krishna, and it's a long one. And we'll talk about the second one. I don't know if I'll talk about the first one or not. Let's see. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. Already, bang, we're above that. This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. We have to be pure in heart. These things are being introduced. Supposing somebody is just a Western guy and they get a first volume of the first canto on the street. This stuff is getting introduced into their heart immediately if they sit down and start reading. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. No, there's illusion. For the welfare of all, and this is good for everyone. So, these are ideas being offered to us. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. So we immediately have an idea there's threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, now he's being introduced, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What an amazing sentence. What is the need for any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within the heart. Immediately in these verses, the essential truth is established. I might as well do the first one too. I'm going backwards. That's right. So, first one, O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Immediately, Krishna has introduced his position and the fact that we ought to offer respectful obeisances. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth. The absolute truth is not an absolute abstract principle. The absolute truth is a person. And the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the material universes. You got a lot right there, immediately. More than one universe. He is the cause of the creation, sustenance, and destruction. So perhaps there's an introduction that there might be a cycle of creation, the introduction of that idea, because he is the cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. So it sounds like it might be a cycle. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. We have so much information given right here, that there was one original living being, that he was given Vedic knowledge. It wasn't a germ. He was given Vedic knowledge, so he must have been pretty smart, original living being. So he was high enough to give Vedic knowledge. This is pretty interesting. And then he's directly, and just Krishna himself is directly and indirectly, I went past that, conscious of all manifestations. So God is all-knowing. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. So there are demigods and they're in illusion. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water, steam, and fire, or land, steam, and water, only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Do you know what? We could, if we had those three verses, what vast amount of knowledge could we have? How we could talk about this and ponder this forever if we had those three verses, because they sum it all up. And there's the first three verses introducing the Bhagavatam. So then, it goes into the story. There's some sages gathered in the forest. They're doing a 1,000-year sacrifice, and they start having questions. And so they present questions that everybody would present, anybody would or should consider. So, so anyway, it's long to dig out those questions. And then in the second chapter, Sutta Goswami begins to answer them. Now, Sutta Goswami has heard Shukadeva Goswami speak. This is a connection now. So then he proceeds and he gives all levels of knowledge. He gives the knowledge of God, the knowledge of good human society, knowledge of our ashram, knowledge of the soul, knowledge of how we should behave in the material world to make it a nice place, all this knowledge and examples of people dealing with these duties and odd circumstances that make it difficult to keep your duty, to do your duty, and how they respond to that. So then so much is science of the material world, the different varnas, different classes of society, and the qualifications of each, the duties of each. All this makes the material world go, and understanding the material world and how it should go nicely. And then it kind of blows the whole thing away, because devotional service is transcendental to all of this. So all you got to do is love Krishna. And in the 10th canto especially, you find that even the lower class people, Krishna said it in the Bhagavad Gita. He said even persons of lower birth, be they women or Vaishyas or Shudras, if they develop devotion to me, they can come to me. So it's one simple little verse, but Krishna had already had all his pastimes, so he's speaking from, but Krishna always knows all this all the time, but he's speaking in his material world Leela pastimes timeline. He's already shown this to be true in Vrindavan, because the women were the highest devotees. The gopis, the absolute highest, and the wives of the brahmanas, they were higher than their husbands, even though women were, according to the hierarchical structure, women were not up there on top telling anybody what to do, but they had to serve. But so they were the topmost, and just because of devotion to Krishna, all they have to do is be attracted to Krishna. And even the Aborigine girls were attracted to Krishna. They were devotees too. They saw the footprints on the forest path and some kumkum that had fallen from, the gopis embracing. They had the kumkum on the body somehow, and embracing Krishna, got in the garland, and then it fell off, in the path. So the Aboriginal girls had a lower culture. It wasn't really up to Vedic culture, but they saw that in the path, and it was they collected it because they were watching Krishna and the gopis. They were watching from afar. They were pure devotees too. They didn't care about anything else. In their life, what they really loved was Krishna. And they may have had husbands or lovers or whatever. They weren't satisfied. They were satisfied by Krishna. So in that sense, they were pure devotees too. And so, not only that, women, Vaishyas and Shudras. So, we can say for sure about the Vaishyas, because although most of the Bhagavatam is about Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, and then we get to the 10th canto, the key people are in the first part, the most personal part, Krishna's personal Leela, that invites us to Goloka Vrindavan. In that Leela, it was Vaishyas. And probably, I can say there were servants in there, so they would be Shudra level, because there's those also. So the example, the whole 10th canto, not the whole 10th canto, because then he goes to the city, but the whole first part of the 10th canto when he's in Vrindavan is an expansion of that little statement in Bhagavad Gita. Even those of lower birth, be they women or Vaishyas or Shudras, can, if they're devoted to, they can come to me. So this is the contrast, because we have this structure in the material world for things to go well, and you want the smartest people, the best trained people up at the top directing everything, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. The Brahmanas are the studious persons, and the Kshatriyas are the ones who make the practical decisions to protect everybody, and they're guided by the Brahmanas. So those two classes are like a partnership up at the top. So for practical things in the material world, so even in our movement, we need to understand that, because we gotta exist in the practical world and accomplish practical work and deal with practical problems. So who's the most talented for what? We gotta make best use of everybody's talents. And so we need to understand about this. But at the same time, what we really need to do is love the holy names, love the deities, love Krishna's pastimes, love the Bhagavatam. It's about love. So we have this two aspects. So let's see, I'll read this again. Thus it is pure. Let's see. Srimad Bhagavatam is mainly full of the narrations of the activities of the Supreme Unlimited. And it is because even though it's about the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas interacting with Krishna, somehow or other, some pastime of Krishna, some devotee of Krishna, some incarnation of Krishna, somehow it's all about Krishna. So, let's see. And therefore it is the science of Bhakti Yoga, or the devotional service of the Lord. Thus it is para, or supreme, because although it is enriched with all knowledge and religion, it is specifically enriched with the devotional service of the Lord. So even not in the 10th canto, but elsewhere you have stories like Prahlad Maharaj. He had so much devotion, so much love for his I don't know if it was Lord Nrsingadev's form that he thought of, or what, but his particular dear aspect of Krishna that he meditated on. And it's so sweet and devotional, for example. And it was just a story of, it was a story of an incarnation. Before that, it was a story of a devotee with devotion and having enemies, like his father attacking him for it. So it was the drama between the devotee and the demon. And there's a lot of that in the Bhagavatam, and some of the stories are, I don't think, and I'd have to like reread the whole, I wanted to go through all the chapters, but I didn't get to do that. I want to look at all the chapter headings, and the whole Bhagavatam, and even that's a lot of chapters. So I can't remember for sure right off the top of my head, but I think there are stories that are simply about devotees and demons and aren't necessarily having an incarnation appear. I'm pretty sure there are. Am I right?
Well, the Indra and the
Vritrasura?
demigod, the demon, Vritrasura, I don't think
Yeah.
they're not. There's a.
And when he was Chitraketu, Vritrasura, when he was Chitraketu, he did learn a mantra. First of all, he had like 10 million wives and no kids, no children, no son, and so the sage came and did a sacrifice, and he gave the sweet rice to his favorite wife. She had a child, she had a son, and the other wives got jealous and poisoned the baby, and because she was getting all the attention. And then he was lamenting. He and the wife were lamenting, and then the sage came back with another sage with Narada, Angira and Narada, and they gave a lesson on the soul. They actually, for one thing, they give some talk first, and then they actually invited the soul back into the body. And the little boy sat up and said, "I've had so many mothers and fathers. Who are you? Which ones are you?" So it's like they got the point. And so Chitraketu then he learned a mantra from Narada Muni and meditated on the Lord, and it was a mantra to Ananta, Lord Ananta. And so he got to go there. I don't know, in his meditation, or came to him or something. The four Kumaras were there, and he actually had an exchange with Lord Ananta. And then he went about the universe having kirtan with pretty ladies accompanying him. He had kirtan all over the universe. And then he saw Lord Shiva with Parvati on his lap surrounded by sages, and he thought that was hilarious that wasn't private, and it was in front of all the sages. It just says she was sitting on his lap. So I've seen statues, and we don't know what all was happening, but it was somehow pretty hilarious to Chitraketu, and he laughed, and so Parvati got embarrassed and offended, and she cursed him to be born in a family of demons. And then he revealed his actual spiritual advancement. He offered her obeisances and accepted the curse and apologized. So then she was like chastened by that. She was like kind of sorry and learned a lesson about the great devotees. So then after that, Chitraketu was born as a demon from a sacrificial fire, and he was supposed to kill Indra. And something went wrong with the mantra, so he didn't kill Indra. But anyway, meanwhile, he was a pure devotee, and he was engaged in this fight, and he was praying, when will I be free to go back to Godhead, basically. And meanwhile, Indra was, as a demigod, somewhat materialistic. He was thinking, how can I win, How can I win and get my kingdom or something? So you can see there was a contrast there also, that the pure devotee. So here and there, it turns out in the Bhagavatam, so like I said, I don't remember, there must be stories of pure devotees without, just about the pure devotee, and not about an incarnation. But I don't know right now, I can't think of it. Can't think all the way through. And
actually, if you read the very next verse, it kind of says that person Bhagavat and the Bhagavat itself are this equal in that sense.
yeah, so if you have a pure devotee, you have the Bhagavatam. It's just the same as Hare Krishna because it represents. I didn't want to take that verse because it's such a good one, and I thought it would be greedy because it's a nice one to read for you. There's so much cool stuff in there, you'll have fun. So, but this one had enough because it's about the whole Bhagavatam, so I thought I better face it and talk about this one. And even though it's vague in general. But devotional service, so we have to another example like the mode of goodness, so you got to get up to the mode of goodness, and the transcendental, there's knowledge in religion, and knowledge of religion when it's somewhat just knowledge and just religion is like mode of goodness. And mode of goodness is like the airport. And you can't take off in a plane except at the airport. You have to get there. You might be in the different modes. You might have to go through the city and the mode of ignorance. You might have to drive in the freeway and get in the mode of passion. When you get to the airport, it's the mode of goodness. And you can take off in a plane of bhakti yoga there, devotional service. But you need, you can, I mean, in some kind of extreme circumstances, you might be able to fly a little bit from other places, but really, you can't maintain it. Sort of a bad metaphor here all of a sudden. But you can't, without the mode of goodness as the platform for bhakti yoga, you can't maintain it very well. So you keep on getting distracted and dragged down. So the mode of goodness is supposed to be there, and there's all these instructions about the modes and about what's the mode of goodness and about proper religious behavior and moral behavior, duties and proper relationships and all that, so that we can be up on that level to support our devotional service. But devotional service is really where it's at. And if somebody has something wrong, they can't do that, but they just love Krishna. They just love Krishna. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. So there's two different kinds of things here, and you need both, but mainly devotional service. Mainly we just need to love Krishna. And that's how Prabhupada presented Krishna consciousness at first. He did not try to present Varnashram at first, or he didn't really discuss that much about morals or anything. He just discussed, except for the 4 regs, he just talked about pure devotion to Krishna, very simple. And then after, some maturity, then, problems will begin to reveal themselves because devotees trying to do things without things being practically lined up. So then introducing Varnashram more like that. And so that needs to be there too. So we have to encompass both. But we have to always know it's about bhakti. So I'm going to stop. Yes. How do you know I was going to? Your hand was right ready. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
2 comments. It was interesting. The introduction, again, 111. We had said before, I believe you said it, that it introduces the person, which was Krishna, then the son of Vyasadeva, and then what their function was, which was...
The second one is Vyasadeva, the third one is the son of Vyasadeva. Shubhira, yeah.
And that he was the supreme person. It was those 3 points that were made. 111.
3 foundational introductory points.
111. Mm-hmm. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vyasadeva, and then, all-pervading personality of Godhead. Mm-hmm. So those 3 qualifications are met there. The second one was that Prabhupada said we don't need Vinashram, then we must have Vinashram. And
what?
And both are true. In the beginning he said we don't need Varnashram because he didn't think, no, who's ready for Varnashram? A bunch of kids,
Right.
So we don't need it to practice bhakti yoga. It's true. We don't need it to practice bhakti yoga. At the same time, eventually it reveals we need it for practical.
Because of the difficulties.
Yeah.
And when Sureshwar gets here, Prabhu, we will learn how Prabhupada transitioned from, we don't need that, to we got to have it.
But actually both statements are true. It wasn't really a transition. It's interesting. It's just a way of presenting because bhakti is independent.
Right.
It depends on absolutely nothing else. It's independent.
Right.
And you don't have to have a yoga ladder, although it might help you stabilize. You don't have to have a yoga ladder. You don't have to have varnashram. All you got to do is have bhakti. All by itself, it can be everything to you because it makes everything else right. Because out of bhakti, you do the right thing. If you're pure, then you can do that. But a lot of us are, 1 foot in the bhakti world, 1 foot in the regular world. And because here we are in the regular world. So we have to deal with that too.
So the help for the continuation of the movement, and he actually said we should have it. He translated.
It's simultaneously both true.
Right.
Yeah, simultaneously both true. We don't need it and we do need it. Equally true. It's like one of those, it's practically like one of those Achinta Veda Veda Tattva things.
Yeah, simultaneously.
Yeah. There's a lot of Achinta Veda Veda Tattva
Yeah.
things in this. It's not just
It's-
soul and God. It's
it's
a lot
both.
of things work that way. Yeah.
When you were talking about Prahlad and his meditation before Lord Nrsimhadev manifest, I never really thought of that, but you know, he's definitely like a devotee of Vishnu, and that's what Hiranyakashipu was so upset about, that Vishnu was his great nemesis, and then his son was a devotee of Vishnu, so maybe it was that, you know, that form was his meditation, and then Lord Nrsimhadev manifest in that particular.
Yeah, we don't know, because actually Lord Nrsimhadev's form is an eternal form, and it's not, I don't think it's temporary in this world, but it's an eternal form also.
But Prahlad could have been privy to that, you know,
He could have known it.
understanding and that vision, but I guess it's just not discussed.
Yeah, we don't know how he was visualizing the Lord, but I know that he sometimes felt the touch of the Lord, and he thrilled to the touch. He felt in his meditation and his closeness was so deep. So what he saw, I don't remember that it says what he saw, but he felt it.
I thought that the reason he appeared that way was because to counter the
Yeah.
calculations of.
But it's an eternal form, isn't it? That in the spiritual world,
Yeah.
I mean, we visually
As far
he
as
appears
I
again and
understand,
again.
yeah, as far as I understand that.
Yeah. So it might-
Whereas actually Paramatma is not. Paramatma is
Yeah.
only necessary during
Yeah.
material creation.
That's true. So I don't know, maybe Lord Nrsimhadeva's form is only for...
Yeah, I think he has his own planet because
Yeah.
when you know that first original cover, I
Yeah.
remember seeing the Shringa Loka or something.
But he doesn't look like Lord Nrsimha. He doesn't have a lion's head in that picture.
I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, I've thought about that too. There doesn't. So that's, we don't know that part.
There's a lot about Prahlad and his relationship with Nrsimhadev in the Bhagavatam I was reading recently. I could look and see if there's something.
Okay.
I have to go to the dentist.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here.
Jai.
Anybody else? You? Have something?
No. I said Jai.
Jesse's re-entering. Does he have a question or
Comment?
comment?
No, I like the class. Thank you very much. I was listening outside.
Okay.
It was very nice.
Are you not froze to death?
No, I'm getting acclimated to it. So, yeah, it's not too bad.
Stay awake, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay.
Thank you
everybody.
very
God
much.
bless you. God bless you.
Nice.